All right, please let me call the meeting to order. I got the on-air light, so we should be good to go. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Summer Residence Advisory Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or they can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. And let's establish a quorum. Let's start with Mr. Meehan.
Present.
Frank Pinto, present.
Tracy Golden, present.
Tina Mead, present.
Bob Wood, present.
Tom Garvey, present.
Ron Manderscheid, present.
And online, I see Don Drinkwater.
Present.
Great. And Jeff Spalter, the chair, is present. Thank you very much. Let me hand it off to kick things off to our moderator, Bill Litchfield, who we appreciate taking the time to join us this evening. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Good evening to all of you. We appreciate your being here. As Jeff indicated, my name is Bill Litchfield. I'm elected by the voters, the town's voters, as moderator of the town meeting, and it's been my pleasure to work with the SRAC and predecessor groups for a long time. On behalf of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, I want to welcome you to the 80th annual Summer Town Meeting. Chatham has had this forum since shortly after World War II, when the Chamber of Commerce and some local elected officials decided that it would be useful to have a session to share information and to listen to concerns of our many seasonal residents. It's developed into a long-standing tradition of healthy dialogue between town officers, several of whom are here this evening, and our non-voting taxpayers. Chatham's town meeting created the then non-voting taxpayer advisory committee back in 1997. The name was subsequently changed to Summer Residence Advisory Committee, and this is that committee's, I think, 29th year as sponsor. It is, as far as I know, still the only such body in the Commonwealth as an official town committee, which is why the chair had to read the notice that he did. The only one of which I'm aware, and you're fortunate to have an active and dedicated group of volunteer committee members. They have introduced themselves briefly, but I will go through the officers and members alphabetically rather than where they're seating, because that's how I have it, and also give you an idea of where they live when they're not fortunate enough to be here in Chatham. Jeff Spalter, the chair, in the middle is at Longboat Key in Florida in the winter, and on Barcliff Avenue when he is here. Tracy Golden, the vice chair, is on St. Simon's Island in Georgia, and Wood Carver Knoll, which is not quite in West Chatham, but in that direction. Tom Garvey, the secretary, is in Dallas, Texas, when it's very hot, but he's here now. He lives in the Stage Neck neighborhood when he's in town. Ron Manderscheid is the treasurer. He's in Potomac, Maryland during the winter, and Horizon Drive up on Great Hill when he is here. Roger Donald is in Naples, Florida, and West Chatham. Don Drinkwater, who is online, is in Carlisle outside of Boston and Battlefield Road in Chatham. Tina Mead is in Washington, D.C. during the winter, and Shattuck Place downtown neighborhood when she is here. Jamie Meehan, to my right, is in Parkland, Florida, and on Linden Tree Lane. Frank Pinto, who is in Wellesley during the year, and Queen Anne Road downtown when he is here. Phil Richardson is in Tiburon, California, and also downtown. And Bob Wood is in Bluffton, South Carolina, and versus way downtown when he is here. We are fortunate to have at least 3 members of our select board. Jeff Dykins, the chair, who will be speaking, along with Corey Metters and Dean Nicastro. And if I missed, Stuart and Randy Powdash, our newest member, who is also here, and also our town manager, Jill Goldsmith. I would ordinarily introduce several department heads and other town officials who are here, but they have gallantly gone over to the overflow room. And those of you who are standing, if you would like to sit and be able to participate, you may go into the overflow room right outside the door. There's a small conference room right down to the right. So there are a lot of staff people that I would ordinarily introduce, but because they are around the corner, I'll not do so. So with that, I thank you all for being here and return to the chair, Mr. Spalter.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Let me look at her and say, wow, what a group welcome. Thank you all for being here. Quite a turnout this evening, so we appreciate you taking the time to come out. As Bill said, this is our 80th Summer Town Meeting hosted by the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, and I think we're all excited to be here tonight. It's just a great opportunity for you to hear from and engage with town leadership, and for us to share the work that we've done on issues that we believe are important to you and to the town. So if we can get the presentation up and go to the agenda. See, I practiced using the clicker earlier. So review the agenda, but first, we'd really like to thank Town Manager Jill Goldsmith and Assistant Town Manager Katie Donovan and their team for taking the time to meet with us and provide amazing support and guidance. Kathy Lewis and Shannon Neely are always there for us and also provide incredible support. And thanks to them, and a special thanks to Mark back here in Chatham TV. He's really helped us get ready for tonight. As the moderator mentioned, there are several department heads here tonight from Team Chatham, and we appreciate their support and their willingness to come chat with us throughout the year. And we really appreciate the Select Board coming out tonight, this evening, and for the access that they provide. So let's look at the agenda for the evening. Select Board Chair Jeff Dykens, who is also our liaison, will make some opening remarks, followed by Town Manager Jill Goldsmith, who will share an overview of issues around town and talk about our financial health. I'll come back and share some background on the SRAC, and then hand off to Vice Chair Tracy Golden, who will talk about the issues we've been working on this year, followed by updates on short-term rentals by Ron Manderscheid and the residential tax exemption by Tom Garvey. Tom Barr, the Deputy Director of DPW, will talk about water availability and provide a quick update on the sewer project. And if there's time, we'll have a few thoughts on sewer connectivity. Those are words I never thought I'd say. And then we'll end with Q&As. We have the room until 9 o'clock, and please hold your questions until the end. The town moderator will handle the Q&As at the end of the session. There are index cards available on the table in the back of the room for those of you who would like to submit a question. Please hand them to Jamie, who's sitting on my left, your right. Or you can raise your hand and we'll get you a microphone or get you up to the podium. If we do not get to your question, please use the standard town contact protocol, which is to email the town staff or the town manager, Joe Goldsmith, who's here this evening. So with that, let me turn it back over to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate those remarks. And there is also, when we get to questions and answers, a microphone right in the middle front row, which may be useful for you. Jeff Dykens has been on our Select Board for more than a dozen years. Previous to that, he served on our school committee. And it is my pleasure to introduce the Chair of the Select Board, Jeff Dykens.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator and Mr. Spalter and the SRAC. Good to see you folks again, and welcome. Good evening to everyone, and happy 80th birthday to the SRAC. It's a remarkable achievement, longevity. It's been a great relationship for a long 80 years, so congratulations. You know, we're having an extraordinary summer season thus far. I've never seen Chatham any busier. I really haven't. It's just absolutely jamming. It's really busting to move downtown. And I can hear it now. Local receipts will be through the roof, through the roof. And I can hear it now as the Select Board gets upbraided for having generated too much free cash a year hence. You wait. We're going to hear it. Local receipts are going to be unbelievable. I just have a few overarching comments tonight. Hopefully it won't be too long-winded. I'm going to talk about the RTE, infrastructure investments, affordable and attainable housing, and education. I'm going to start with the RTA. You know, it's a hot topic. It's probably what brought folks here. I've met twice with the entire committee in discussing it. And as you know, the Select Board probably know has voted twice to support the adoption of the residential tax exemption. One vote was 4-1, and another vote was at 3-2. We have our tax classification hearing on September 1st, when we will take a final vote as to what we're going to do. And I am well aware of SRAC's opposition to its adoption, having met again with the full committee on at least two separate occasions with other conversation on the side. Just a couple of comments. Year-round residents, frankly, are buffeted by market forces beyond their control. Chatham's popularity, in fact, has driven property values so high it is nigh impossible to gain a foothold in this town, purchase property, and to afford to live here. The growth of short-term rentals, which is on your agenda, which is wonderful, has taken what historically were affordable houses off the market. The COVID-19 pandemic only served to exacerbate these trends, with demand for houses increasing and property values skyrocketing north. The RTE, the residential tax exemption, is but one tool that the elected select board can use to provide its year-round residents some modest relief to counter these trends, modest relief to counter these trends. It has been adopted by other seasonal Cape communities that face the same challenges. It is not a perfect instrument, but it is meant to support those year-round residents who are in many ways the fabric and backbone of the year-round working community. And maybe it is too little too late, but as I have made clear to the SRAC board, after having voted against its adoption for 12 years, I do plan to vote in favor of its adoption at a 20% level at our tax classification hearing on September 1st. I certainly know that the RTE is a hot topic, but there's an awful lot going on in Chatham over and above the RTE as the select board and town management work together to improve the overall quality of life in our beautiful town. I'd like to speak about affordable and attainable housing. We have an awful lot going on with affordable and attainable housing in Chatham. We have a Main Street a project that will provide 48 much-needed affordable housing units called Buckley Gardens. It's been approved. It's in process. The Penrose developer is in the process of getting financing. Meeting House Road, should it be approved, will provide another 42 units of affordable rental housing much needed. Its fate is being deliberated by the ZBA this week. They may come to a vote this week. I hope it's positive. They'll likely have some conditions, some overarching conditions at the request, but I hope they are not too onerous and that Penrose can meet them. It's desperately needed. Both developments will provide much-needed affordable housing inventory, and if recent history from Orleans is any indication, the development might well provide an infusion of younger families and children to help enrollment in our schools. A 12-unit affordable 25% and attainable 75% complex or a project for very attractive housing on Stepping Stones Road has been awarded to HAC, the Housing Assistance Corporation in Hyannis. The next step is a land disposition agreement, and it's an extremely attractive, extremely exciting complex for attainable housing. Plans are also in the works for 127 Old Harbor Road, where 4 to 6 units of attainable housing is being targeted. Design guidelines have been hammered out, and the project will be attractive and, we believe, will ultimately fit very nicely in with the neighborhood. So after years, and I mean decades, of relative somnambulance, we are making significant, real progress in providing affordable and attainable housing in Chatham. We're making many further investments in our overall infrastructure, not just in affordable and attainable housing. Center for Active Living, we're finally getting it done. We're redoing the center where it exists on Stepping Stones. It's been a long, long road, a long, frustrating road, but we're finally getting it done. And it's been a long, hard, it's been a very arduous project because we had to relocate the entire staff of the CFAL down to the community center and elsewhere to continue the projects during the summer. But our departments have done an excellent job in so doing. 90 Bridge Street, arguably one of the most unique projects on the face of the planet. We have brought the Stage Harbor boathouse back to Chatham where it was originally, and it will house an upweller. An upweller is a project where it is a center that grows quahogs, and then we distribute the quahogs throughout the town. So it's going to increase the amount of quahogs we're able to distribute, and it's just going to increase access to the water, and it's just really a very unique and very interesting project. Originally $11 million, we knocked that down by $3 or $4 million to about $7.5 million net after grants. So an expensive project, but really unique and really neat. Oyster River Landing, we're going to improve Oyster River Landing with a new bulkhead and access to Oyster River. Riders Cove bulkhead and the ramp at Riders Cove, new bulkhead and a ramp. We've already improved parking there. As you probably well know, our transfer station is undergoing some massive improvements, but ultimately we'll have better throughput there and make it easier to divest yourselves of recyclables as you go through our transfer station. You know, our Eldridge Public Library is also undergoing renovations, making it ADA compatible with better parking and better access. And our herring run culvert, we have a herring run in this town. It runs underneath Route 28 between Riders Cove, Stillwater Pond, and Lover's Lake. And it's been in disrepair, and we really need to restore it so that we have a live herring run back in Chatham. Historically, a very important fishery, a bait fishery for the town. I'd like to talk about education just for a second. As you well know, we have a Monomoy Regional School District along with Harwich. Every 5 years, we review the regional agreement. You know, the region was incepted or came to being in 2012. We looked at it in 2017 and 2022 when we took over, each town took over its respective elementary schools, but we're due for another look in 2027. And the town of Harwich has made it painfully apparent that they're unhappy with the formula by which they are taxed or how their budget is allocated to the schools. So we've put together a 13-member committee that's going to work on a strategic plan for the future of the Monomoy Regional School System. So I think it's very important that you understand that we are facing dwindling enrollment, both in Chatham and in Harwich, and most notably in our elementary schools. So it's very important that we try to get ahead of it. And we adjust budgets, commitments, standards, resources accordingly. So we're working very closely with the town of Harwich. That first meeting is on Thursday, the 20th. I'm not going to steal Tom Barr's thunder, and I've gone on long enough. However, for the first time in our history, I can't help myself, all 11 wells in Chatham are now pumping. We have 11 wells for our public water supply, and they are pumping vigorously, and it's really pleased. And the treatment plant on Training Field Road that treats wells 5 and 8 is also up and running at the end of July, and we're really excited about that. And I know Jill is going to speak to the financials as much as I'd like to, but I'm going to leave that for her. And just in conclusion, I would just like to say that Chatham's really moving in so many positive directions, and we have a lot on our collective plates. And we obviously really continue to value our longstanding positive and productive relationship with our summer residents and the SRAC in particular. So I thank you very much for your time and bending your ear, and I'm certainly here for questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's now my pleasure to introduce our town manager, Jill Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Jill Goldsmith, your town manager. And welcome to the 80th Summer Residence Town Meeting. I want to also thank SRAC for your hard work and your commitment you bring to Chatham. I wanted to note also just a little bit about the numbers that our summer residents, our property owners, are 59% of our total population, and it's up from 56% from last year. So I'm going to go through a state of a town, and my state of the town is going to focus on continuity, the work that happens throughout the year to protect the place that we all value. I'm joined by members of Team Chatham in person and remotely, and we will be glad to answer any questions at the end of the meeting tonight. So before we look at the results, let's begin with how the community priorities move into action. The charter provides for a hierarchy, with roles starting with the top with Chatham voters. Chatham is an open town meeting municipality where any voter can participate there. The select board consists of 5 members elected at large, and the board sets policy and appoints the town manager. My responsibility as town manager is to lead the organization that turns those policies into services, projects, budgets, and measurable results. This structure is how we govern. The select board priorities tell us where we are going. The select board reaffirmed 6 priority goal areas in January 2026. They guide the work ahead. These are not separate checklists. They reinforce one another. Housing supports workforce. A strong workforce sustains local services and businesses. And financial capacity protects our water, waterfront, and public facilities. education, and community services help families remain in Chatham. And details on the actual objectives are found on our website. Chatham has the financial foundation to do this work responsibly. Chatham enters FY 2027 from a position of strength. The town's valuation continued to grow, up 4.28% over FY 2025. And for calendar year 2026, the average residential value is $1.62 million, and the average single-family value is $1.738 million. Our AAA bond rating, which is the best that a municipality can get, was reaffirmed in May. S&P noted strong financial management and stable reserves. These measures don't mean that every choice is easy. It means that the town has built the capacity to plan and make long-term investments without abandoning financial discipline. This financial foundation becomes meaningful in the way we sustain services and invest responsibly. So FY 2027 runs from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. The operating budget is a 4.7% increase over the prior year with no new positions. The regional school assessments in total is a 5.04 increase. The $2.4 million capital budget is funded from available funds with no tax levy funding. Strong collections of revenues help sustain services while continuing necessary investment. The complete digital book is available on the town's website. Each program has its own budget and delivery model, but the public purpose is shared. Preserve a livable Chatham. Dedicated local revenues allow the town to align spending with long-term community goals while maintaining transparency about how those dollars are used. Additionally, our annual human services budget funds other nonprofit partners who provide services to the community at large. Center for Active Living. Wow, it's finally here, and it's in renovations. We're now in the construction phase, and services have been temporarily relocated to the community center at 702 Main Street, so programs can continue during the week in doing the work. The target move back date is August 1st, 2027. And this is really more than a building project. It's an investment in connection, independence, and quality of life for adults 60 years old and above. The same idea, helping people remain part of Chatham, drives our housing work. I know Select Board Chair Jeff just went through some of the projects and wanted to provide a slide to visualize it. So the Select Board's housing goal for the next 5 years is 200 units of affordable and attainable housing that will be added. On the ownership side, 558 Kroll Road is now occupied with a permanent affordability restriction. Stepping Stones proposes 12 attainable homes, and 127 Old Harbor Road is planned for 4 to 6 attainable homes. Affordable and attainable describe different income ranges and tools. Both address the same community need. And the housing production plan approved in December provides the 5-year framework that ties these individual projects together. Here is a concept for Stepping Stones. Again, ownership homes in a clustered duplexes, and will be designed to reflect Chatham's architectural character. The proposed model includes a perpetual preference for school and municipal employees, subject to the project's approvals and final program design. The next slide shows how the town is assembling the project financially. So the proposal includes 12 homes serving a mix of income levels, up to 200% of the area median income. That could be a family of 4 with income of $254,200 per year. This is just an example of the town using land, local funding, and financing structure together, partnering with a well-known nonprofit entity. Quality of life also depends on everyday public services property owners use routinely. our transfer station. The new garage is complete and the recycling area is under construction. The target completion is in the spring of 2027. This is a practical project, safer movement, easier access, and more efficient service property owners use throughout the year. So from everyday service, we turn the systems that protect Chatham's defining natural setting. Chatham's coast is an environmental asset, an economic engine, a working waterfront, and public access responsibility. Protecting it requires many coordinated projects. Our Department of Natural Resources has been very successful with grants. This week alone, they received a total of $4.4 million in grants for coastal resiliency, 90 Bridge Street, Frostfish Creek Culvert, and Jackknife Beach. I had commented to our Director of Natural Resources, he's made the town the most in a week, as well as very well-known soccer players. I was very excited. He wasn't a soccer fan. I was going to use a Kardashian reference. I didn't think that was going to work, but I think it would have. Anyway, we're very excited about that. So our website is our best resource in staying up to date on all of our coastal projects. Our natural resources staff ensure that the most up-to-date information is provided on the coastal resources page. I know you can't read it, but the key of this is that we have a really fabulous website and we have a great coastal resiliency director who just did a fabulous presentation to the select board. So I encourage you to visit the site. 90 Bridge Street. So construction's ongoing and the pier and floats have been installed and a new concrete wharf is completed. The historical U.S. Coast Guard boathouse was returned to Chatham in March, and work has begun to renovate the structure into a new upweller facility. Another essential natural resource is less visible, but just as fundamental, drinking water. As Jeff had said, for the first time, all of Chatham's drinking water wells were online this summer. The treatment facility for wells 5 and 8 were online in June. New wells 10 and 11 are complete and have been supplying water for the past year. Staff provides monthly pumping and construction updates at select board meetings so the community can follow system performance. DPW Deputy Director Tom Barr will present more details tonight. We are now starting the next cycle of public financial planning. Following this meeting, we kick into gear our public review process of the town's finances and community priorities in a few weeks. The selectmen will also launch our first community survey for public sentiment on service priorities. From January through April, the operating and capital budgets move through the public review process. In all, this is more than 6 months of public discussion. The town's website is a central source for updates, public notices, meeting information, emergency alerts, and the main sheet e-newsletter. I know you have a handout that has QR codes to the main sheet, and I'm certain that Jeff Spalter, our chair of SRAC, will provide another slide with QR codes for connections. So the website is a hub, and our other channels help information reach people where they already are. The town actively uses social media. Additionally, each month, the town manager's monthly report is presented to the board and posted online. It provides readers with everything and anything you might want to know about the town. You can also see the work of government, not only read about it. Chatham TV carries live meetings on Xfinity Channel 1072 with on-demand viewing through the town's website for free. The Chatham YouTube channel enhances those efforts with short features that show the town services, how they actually work, from shellfish propagation and dredging to drinking water wells and snow removal. So these images capture the spirit behind the work. Public employees, volunteers, and traditions and local pride, and the shared experiences that make Chatham feel like home. This is our current Hallmark Channel contest, and we have been rated top 25 in the nation as towns. And we're hoping for your vote if you vote by September 4th for the town of Chatham, Massachusetts as the merriest town. Many of you have experienced Stroll, first night, and who knows what will come out of that. So in the end, Chatham's position is strong because of financial discipline, community purpose, and working together. None of this happens without Team Chatham employees, elected and appointed officials, volunteers, and engaged community members. Thank you for being a part of Chatham's history in every season. We welcome your questions tonight and invite you to stay connected throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. We appreciate that. And I'll now turn it back to the SRAC Chair, Jeff Spalter.
Great, thank you, Bill. And Jill and Jeff, thank you so much. That's a lot of great information all in one place for everyone to see, so we really do appreciate that. And we're right about on time, too. Who knew? So let's briefly talk about the SRAC, who we are and what we do. As many of you know, and as mentioned by the moderator, the summer residents have been meeting for some 80 years now to discuss issues of common concern and to engage with town officials. Chatham is a bit unique in this manner, providing a direct link between the non-voting taxpayers and town leadership. And personally, I feel pretty fortunate to have this link and appreciate the strong and positive relationship that we have with the select board and with the town manager. And just one example, last week I sent an email to Jeff Dykins to invite him to join a 9 a.m. Friday morning meeting to talk, yes again, about the RTE. And his response was, I'm there. And so we really do appreciate that. The SRAC was initially named the Non-Voting Taxpayer Advisory Committee, was formed by town meeting in 1996 with the charge to make recommendations to the select board on issues of concern to non-resident taxpayers. We were also given the right to speak but not vote at town meeting. Our mission to help achieve these objectives is fourfold: to give the summer residents a voice, to give the select board the benefit of information and views, to give fresh outlooks to the town, and to take a position and make a case for and against town matters. And that's what this wonderful group of volunteers has been doing. There are currently 11 of us on the committee with a wide range of backgrounds: finance and accounting, PhDs, teachers, engineers, housing developers, wealth management, to name a few, and not to mention some experience with town government in other Massachusetts towns. We meet every Friday during the summer from June through August to address issues that are important to the town and impactful to you all, to the summer residents. Our objective is to give advice that's in the town's best interest. We also meet remotely for an hour once a month from September through May to keep abreast of key issues. And you all are more than welcome to join the meetings in person or remotely. We'd love to have your input, and you really do get some good information and some good insight as you just heard today. The QR code that's here will bring you to our homepage on the town website. At the end of the presentation, we'll share some QR codes to resources that can help you stay engaged with town activities throughout the year. And we'd also like to collect email addresses to help keep in touch and share what's going on where it's relevant to summer residents. And a quick PSA, we do have 2 openings on the committee, and we'd love to have someone who's interested and energetic to join us. The committee opening is posted on the town website, and this presentation will be posted on the website as well. With that, let me turn it over to Tracy Golden, our vice chair, who will talk about our 2026 activities and the issues that we have on the back burner. Tracy?
Thanks. Can you, the clicker. So let's go to this one. Hi. So our first task each year is to look back at what we did last year and figure out what we're going to be focusing on for the summertime when we're actually all together in person and meeting every year. So we align on where we're going to focus first. And in March and April, we kind of get together and do that on those meetings that Jeff mentioned. We think about what we were working on in the prior year, what are some new issues that we are hearing about in the local papers, from the select board agendas, and what's on the plate of Chatham. And as Jill said and Jeff both said, there's a lot on the plate, so we think about those things. We meet with the leaders of various town departments throughout the time that we are together. And then that way we learn more about what's going on in the town and identify whether or not there's any additional input or insight that we might be able to help with. Some key issues that we have discussed have been the grinder pump issue, which you probably maybe have heard about that one. Water availability, which we're happy to say that the 11 wells all working is great. Short-term rentals. The sewer project itself, so everybody having to connect into the sewer and getting the sewer done over a period of time. And then, of course, affordable housing and attainable housing here. And then parking, which has been on agendas over time as well. Some of the issues have really moved forward a lot, like the grinder pumps, like the sewer connections relative to the grinder pump issues that have been there. The affordable housing, as both Jeff and Jill said, those have been big movers. And so these things are now underway, like the delivery and installation of grinder pumps is happening, and the additional payment of the stipend to the homeowners is also available as well. So we didn't spend much time this past year on those issues because they have been moving and we had been paying attention to them, just watching them from an update perspective. Clearly, you'll know that we have spent time on the RTE, the residential tax exemption, and I'm not going to talk about that because we have Tom Garvey who's going to be talking about that for his portion of the meeting as well. We have spent a fair amount of time on short-term rentals also. As people have noted, that there's been, a lot of changes in Chatham and gathering data and trying to understand more about the short-term rentals and what changes that has led to in town and how can that be helped in some way. Ron Manderscheid is going to spend some time talking about that work that we have been doing, and he has been particularly working hard with Randy Potash, which she's on the select board as well. And so I think that those two have received a bulk of time. And as Jeff said, one of the best things about what we do is that we do get access to all of the individuals within the town, Team Chatham, as well as the select board and others that may bring more information and may share additional things with us. When we had one presentation this year from Leah Lacrosse and Pat Burke and talking about what they do with the services that are offered there for the community and for the seniors in town, they actually received a standing ovation at the end of our meeting because it was quite impressive what has been going on. The other issues that if we continue to monitor, we are looking at the sewer connectivity costs and looking at whether or not there are ways that some additional collaboration can be put together so that we can figure out if there's a way to affect those costs in a positive way so that they don't spiral and continue to grow. So we're looking at some of that and what can that, be done, because it is a quite expensive proposition, as well as how to help more. So as an example, there's a guide that's on the town's website from DPW that talks about the connecting to the sewer and what that process is and what all of that entails. And Jamie Meehan, one of our members, actually reviewed that because he's already done this. So he had a perspective to bring some helpful thoughts of what additional information might be helpful in there. We'll be focusing on grinder pump repair because that's something that's not covered at this moment. Obviously, we'll keep talking about parking and traffic and then offering, hearing what's happening and then offering any thoughts that might be helpful there. And also learning more about, what is and can be done around that effort. There have been reports to the select board on parking, and we're just staying updated and learning more about that as well. Finally, affordable housing, we'll keep staying abreast of that and seeing where the great progress that's being made. Hopefully that continues, and we'll be certainly watching that as we go forward. So that's kind of what we've been up to and what we have been doing in the last year. We certainly do appreciate all of the support that we get that allows us to have additional information, ask questions, and then also talk through, some of those issues with the appropriate people within town government as well. So I'll turn it back to Jeff.
Great. Thanks very much, Tracy. And Jen, just a quick reminder that there's a table from Community Services that's out when you walked in that has a tremendous amount of information, and the work they do for the seniors and the community is really quite stunning. So if you have a chance, stop by there and get some information and see what they do. So now let's get to the key topics, and I'm going to turn it over to Ron Manderscheid, who is leading our short-term rental subcommittee. They've done some great work, and you'll see they're still in the study phase versus recommendation. Ron's going to bring us fully up to speed. So take it away, Ron.
Okay, thank you very much, and appreciate all of you coming tonight to talk about these topics. They're very important to all of us, residents and summer residents, basically. So I want to begin by thanking the people who've been working on this, especially Randy Potash, who's worked with us the whole summer, has great interest in short-term rentals, and is a good sounding board if you have particular opinions about short-term rentals you'd like to share, basically. And our committee, Frank Pinto, who's sitting over here, Don Drinkwater, who's on the system tonight. He isn't here, he's online. And also me, and I'm enjoying this work very much. And finally, our Roger Donald, who also is not with us this evening. So let me first begin by talking about some of the facts about short-term rentals. So basic definition of a short-term rental is any rental that's 30 days or less in a residence or other dwelling, basically. I want to go through the factoids, then I want to go through some activities that we have been engaging in, and then next steps here. Okay, factoids. In Massachusetts, you need to be registered with the state of Massachusetts in order to do a short-term rental. Once you're registered there, you can also become registered with Chatham, and that registration is good for a year. And the basic fee for that registration was $50 until a week ago when the select board changed it to $200. We actually think more work is needed on that. We think it should be a graduated scale where someone who's renting a house that has 2 bedrooms should not be paying the same as someone who's renting a house that has 10 bedrooms, basically. Let's see. Okay, this is not advancing here. Okay. Can't do it here. Got it? Okay, good. Okay, very good. Okay, very good. The basic tax for short-term rentals, as you see here, it's a little over 14%. Some of it goes to the state, some of it goes to Chatham, and some of it goes to Cape Cod Water Protection Fund, basically. In Chatham, if you run a short-term rental and you're licensed to do short-term rental, the occupancy in that rental can be equivalent to 2 people per bedroom plus 2 additional people. You need to have a safety inspection of your house. That's intended to be annual, but right now it's on a periodic basis, basically. If you have a registration number through your certificate, you need to show that registration number on any of the ads that you put out. And the penalty for violation of these provisions is up to $200 a day, basically. Why are we discussing short-term rentals now? We're discussing short-term rentals, as Jeff said before, because short-term rentals are changing the character of Chatham. We have been here more than 30 years, and we've seen the character change dramatically in that 30-year period. 30 years ago, people used to come and spend the whole summer here. People came and spent long vacations here. And now I think that's not the case. Many more people are here for a very short period of time, and there's a huge turnover, basically. Also, secondly, there are a very large number of registered short-term rentals in Chatham. Currently, it's about 950. And in addition to that, we think there may be 100 or 200 more that actually are not registered. And these things have other impacts. They have impacts upon the volume of traffic that you see downtown, these types of things. And so they're of concern, basically. So we created a subcommittee, as I indicated before. We've been working on this all summer, and I want to show you what we've been working on here. So first, there are three areas that we've been working on. Creation of a general bylaw in Chatham to govern short-term rentals. Secondly, a series of topics that we think the town needs to take on in order to do this work. And third, things that should be done to move this agenda forward, basically. And one of the things that's very important in that is actually collecting some data on what's happening to short-term rentals, and I'll say a little more about that. So what is the need for having a general bylaw? Currently, the regulations that Chatham have only govern health. They don't govern enforcement. They don't govern other things that may be relevant, use of police, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a couple of bylaw provisions already existing, one in Nantucket and one in Provincetown, that could be modeled on to develop a general bylaw for Chatham. Randy Potash is very, very interested in doing that, and we are working with her, and we'll be happy to work with her to help draft that bylaw. Second area, some topics that we think are very, very important that the town needs to take on and discuss, including all of you. And we want your input on all of these things if you're interested. There are a number of things here to be talked about. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll pick a couple out in each instance. So the very first one here, should the registration fee for being able to do short-term rentals in Chatham be a variable fee, or should it be a fixed fee? Variable fee, fewer rooms, less fee, more rooms, greater fee. What do you think about that? Should people who have a license also pay for the health inspection that occurs each year? And the health inspection is going to actually increase because there's new legislation now coming into effect in Massachusetts that will require a greater inspection going forward because of the deaths that occurred in New York a few years ago, basically. And these other, you can see the other topics here, so I don't want to take too much time going through all of them. Those are issues regarding licensing. Then issues regarding operation. Should there be a minimal rental period? Right now, a short-term rental can be as short as 1 day. Should it be a higher number? Should it be 3 days? Should it be 7 days? I think the town needs to take up. Should there be a minimum or maximum number of rentals per year? So in some jurisdictions, they only allow 3 or 4 rentals per year. You can do it, but you can only do it 3 or 4 times in some given period. Should there be more than one rental property per single owner? Another issue here, basically, et cetera. Again, it won't go through all of these, but you get the flavor of some of the issues here in operations. And finally, a few other topics here. What are some of the other topics in short-term rentals? There has been a process in Chatham of grandfathering for houses that don't meet the requirements for number of bedrooms per the size of lots they're on, et cetera, et cetera. And those buildings have been grandfathered in and ignored in terms of the short-term rental process. We think something should be done to that. Also, should corporations be allowed to own and operate short-term rentals in Chatham? Another question. So again, some more topics here for you all to look at and think about going forward here. Now, the third area, as I mentioned, the issue of data collection. There's very little data that currently exists on what's actually happening here with respect to short-term rentals, other than the licenses, basically. And a few things to be picked out here. What are the characteristics of the short-term rental dwellings? You know, how many bedrooms do they have? You know, what is the size of the lots they're on? How many parking spaces do they have? Some of those basic things. And then secondly, the actual characteristics of the rentals that are done. How long is the average rental for a place? How many times do they do those types of rentals per year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Number of violations. So how many violations did a particular place have? And should there be 3 times and you're out? So you're in violation 3 times. Should you lose your license to do short-term rentals? So again, you can see the list of issues here that need to be looked at and we should be moving ahead on. So I won't spend more time on that as well. Let me move ahead a little bit here. So for the next steps for us are, we want to put together a short report to the town, hopefully by the middle of September. And that short report would make a recommendation on whether there be a general bylaw. That short-term report would make a recommendation on the topics we think the town should take up on short-term rentals. And thirdly, that report will list a number of data elements that we think the town should be collecting to move the agenda on short-term rentals. And finally, we are also trying to get an intern to work with us in SHRAC to collect some of the data to help the town get started in having this data, which we think is very important. So thank you very much for the time. If you have interest in this, please speak up, give us your opinion. We need your input on this in order to move the agenda. So thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Ron, that was great. Thank you. And again, as you heard, there's a lot that's being looked at. There's no decisions here. There's a lot of information that really needs to be gathered, and input from the community is going to be really important to get us to the right place for the town of Chatham. With that, let me turn it over to Tom Garvey. Tom has done a tremendous amount of work to help us really understand the RTE, how it works, its pros and cons, and who is impacted and how. Tom developed the SRAC position paper, which is really a great piece of work that's on our webpage. And I'm going to turn it over to him now to talk about the RTE and the SRAC position. It's all yours, Tom.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Just want to spend a few minutes talking about briefly, what is this proposal? What are we talking about? How does it operate? And, you know, if this is adopted in a couple of weeks, what does that mean? We did a presentation in July, mid-July, which is posted on our website, that got into more details on the mechanics of the actual calculations for the proposal. So the residential exemption is a local option that's been adopted under Massachusetts general law that allows a town to shift a portion of the tax burden, the property tax burden, from certain lower valued homes to higher value homes, apartments, and homes that are not occupied as a primary domicile by the owner. The tax exemption reduces the taxable value. It doesn't change the assessed value, but it will apply against the assessed value to get a taxable value for a qualified property, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Right now, the town is talking about a 20% exemption on the average value of property in Chatham, and the numbers for last year were about $1,642,000. Jill mentioned a number a little greater right now, but the maximum exemption can go to 35%. The town right now is talking about 20%, but those towns that have adopted the Seasonal Communities Act, which Chatham is one, can increase the exemption to 50%. So a few things about the RTE. It's not automatically applied statewide. In some other states, there are exemptions that are applied statewide. This is a local option that can be adopted by the select board in each town. The result, if applied, it will reduce the total assessed value to total taxable value of residential properties. And then the remaining value is applied against the town budget, will result in a higher tax rate. The RTE is revenue neutral, doesn't produce an extra dollar of revenue for the town. But what it does, it will shift tax burden. And there will be some full-time residents that will not benefit from the exemption. We'll get into that in a second. Who's eligible? So the eligibility for the tax of this residential tax exemption, the resident and owner of the home needs to use that property as their primary domicile, the place they return and live most of the year. Full-time residents that own multiple properties would only qualify for the exemption on their primary domicile. If they have a second, third property, they won't receive the exemption on those properties. There are full-time residents that will not qualify. If there's a full-time resident living in a rental property, they are not the owner of the property, therefore they would not qualify for the exemption. There are some homes that are owned in trust that will not qualify under the state law if the resident is not both the beneficiary and trustee of the trust. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but there's a significant number of homes in Chatham that are owned in trust, and there will be people that, full-time residents, that would not qualify given the way they structured a trust for whatever estate planning or other purposes. And then if there are any homes that are owned in a business entity such as an LLC, they will not qualify for the exemption. There's no restrictions on eligibility based on income or home value. So it's residents, full-time resident, and then the ownership structure of your house that really determine eligibility. So what has happened with this proposal? About a year ago, a year ago tomorrow, the select board voted to adopt a 35% residential exemption to apply to the current fiscal year, FY27. In January, after some further study with the finance department and assessor's office, the select board reduced that 35% to a 20% exemption. In March, the Finance Committee submitted an article to the Select Board that would be considered at town meeting to advise the Select Board to defer the decision for a year and let a working group look at whether there are options. That working group is just about to issue that report. They've got a draft, and I think they're very close to issuing that, and we'll be discussing that with the Select Board shortly. The Select Board, again, in March, affirmed the 20% exemption proposal, voted against the Finance Committee's proposed idea, but said that should be put on the town meeting agenda. Town meeting considered that, and although it's a non-binding article, it was approved by a slim margin of the voters at town meeting. And I think, as Jeff mentioned, Jill mentioned, the Select Board will be meeting on September 1 to consider what they're going to do for the current fiscal year. If I just very, very briefly walk through an example, and the documents that are posted on our website, including this presentation, have all these examples, so don't worry about drilling down in numbers. But if I took a property that was the approximate median value of properties for FY '26 and looked at the impact of the RTE if every full-time residents qualified. So if it was a qualifying property, about $1.090 million, they would receive a $329,000 exemption. Their new taxable value would become $761,000. The tax on the before the exemption was a tax rate of $3.67 per thousand. If this exemption is adopted and every full-time resident qualified, the tax rate in this theoretical example would go up to $4.02. Okay, so the qualifying home at $1.090 million, the tax would reduce from $4,000 to $3,059, or a $941 reduction. If I took the same type of home, assessed at $1.090 million, that doesn't qualify for the exemption, that property at the new tax rate of $4.02 would be paying $43.82, or a $382 increase, roughly a 43% difference in value between the qualified and non-qualified property. Okay? So all of this will be in the handout. It's available on our website. Just for a quick example, although right now we're talking about 20% exemption, that exemption could go to 35, 50%. If I took that same $1.090 million property, and we theoretically talking using FY '26 data and a 35% exemption, the savings to the qualified home would be $1,765. And the incremental cost to the home that didn't receive the exemption would be a $730 increase. So there's a significant difference if this exemption does increase. So Jeff mentioned, we've been talking to the select board for, well,
A year.
close to a year now, about this proposal. And we have been clear that we recommend that the select board step back and reconsider the proposed adoption of the exemption and revert to the prior policy of not applying the exemption. Part of that consideration, I mentioned before, is that there are a large number of full-time residents that theoretically will not qualify. The structure of their trust, the fact that they are a renter in a home or they own a home in a business entity, significant number will not qualify. As of last Friday, there were 920 approved applications out of roughly 3,200 full-time, what we think is full-time residents. Now, those applications can continue, and that could continue until April 1. The assessor's office needs at a certain point here to cut off in order to set up the first tax bill and to work with the select board on tax rate for FY '27. But considering that, this would look like only 30% of full-time households would benefit from the exemption. That number will change. There will be additional applicants that will get qualified. But that, using that information, that means 70% of full-time people are not going to benefit, and all part-time residents wouldn't benefit. So 87% of the residences in Chatham would not benefit from the exemption. So this is part of our consideration for what we recommend to the select board. Many full-time households will not be eligible. As I mentioned, structure of trust is one complexity. We we've estimated that there's roughly 1,000 full-time residences owned in trust. And I think that there's a significant number of those that are not going to qualify given the structure of those trusts. There's maybe 100 homes that are owned by full-time residents in a business entity, and then there's 450 to 500 homes based on census data that are renters, full-time residents that are renters. So there's going to be a group of people who will not benefit from the proposed exemption. We continue to believe that those people that are in town that need assistance should get assistance from the town. We just don't agree with the structure of the proposed exemption. We have talked to the select board. We've asked if there are clear criteria that would define who needs help, and how many people are we talking about. In addition, there hasn't been a plan to measure whether the exemption will help achieve the benefit. If we don't know who's targeted, it's kind of hard to develop a plan to say, were they benefited. So we supported the Finance Committee's article to defer the implementation. We've collaborated with the Finance Committee on what we've learned, shared that information with them. Overall, the state's RTE is a blunt tool. It implies the same benefit to a home whether someone is in financial hardship or very financially comfortable. So the exemption, the example I talked about of $329,000 exemption would be applied to somebody that is really struggling, and also to somebody in multi-million-dollar home if they qualify for the exemption. I think we all know that the discussion of this exemption has been divisive, and we're fearful that that division will continue to have impact on some of the not-for-profits, charitable organizations that depend on the residents to fund those organizations. Lastly, the last factor, and this one's not a giant one, but many part-time residents already pay a personal property tax. We all get that bill. It's $100-something or something, but that amounts to a number of, I think, $425,000 a year for the town revenue. So the next steps, the assessor's office is finalizing the approved applications in preparation for the tax classification hearing on September 1, and for the decision on tax rate, which they will then use to develop the present that you're all going to get in your mailboxes, saying to pay your first property tax bill. We mentioned there's a hearing on September 1. Attend that, listen to the discussion, understand what's going on. If you have feedback, share it with the select board members. The 5 members of the select board are making this decision. So share your feedback. If you have any other ideas, the Finance Committee Working Group is continuing to work. They've explored a number of ideas. They've got a number that need more study. But if you have ideas, share that with them. And again, if this is approved, it will be impacted on the first property tax invoice in October, November. The materials here and the materials, our position paper and the presentation we did July 16th are all available on our website. They'll all be there. Don't worry about needing to copy links and things now. And that's basically what we wanted to share tonight.
Hey, thank you, Tom. That was great. And again, just a couple things to make clear is that the SRAC position is to support those who have a financial need. We really want to do that. We just think the RTE is the wrong tool. And so I just want to make that distinction. We're not against helping those who are in need. That's just really important. The Finance Committee Working Group has done an incredible job putting together a document that's got a lot of options that looks holistically around what is available to help those in town, seniors all the way down. So if you get a chance, I think they approved that at their Finance Committee meeting today, and that'll be posted on their website, and that's worth a read. And Andy's here somewhere if you have any questions about the document that they pulled together. So, Tom, thanks very much. With that, let me introduce Tom Barr. Water and water availability, always a key issue for Chatham. Our final topic for the evening, and Rob Faley, the DPW director, is not available, so we really appreciate Tom Barr standing in for him.
Yep, no problem.
I didn't say upgrade, someone else did. But thanks for coming in and bringing us through the water issues.
Well, thanks for having me here. I'm just going to go through it quick because we're on the home stretch and everybody's pretty hot right now, so let's get out of here if we can. So again, just talking about the water availability here. We had a lot of plans going on. The sewer planning and construction has been a huge topic here in town. So here's our implementation map that a lot of you guys have seen in the past. It just kind of gives you the phases on where we're going to be going and how we plan to attack the entire town and when the completion will be. So phase 2, 2044 is hopefully, if everything goes right, if planning goes correct and financing comes through. So this September, we are starting contract 1F1, which is going to finish the rest of Cedar Street, including a pump station that'll be there. We've had some issues trying to get a pump station in that area, but we were able to get a small piece of town property that we're able to put a pump station on that'll handle the rest of Cedar Street. And then it's going to include several other roads off of the main Route 28 section that was done back in 2011, 2012. So we're going to grab several of those roads, mostly gravity, and they're going to be adding on to there. Our next phase after that, we're doing our preliminary designs have been done for the 1F2, which is going to include Barn Hill Road and several neighborhoods off of there, as well as the Katie Ford neighborhood off of George Ryder Road. This will also include, the 1F2 is going to include sections off of Morton Road and Commerce Park, which we all know has had some major issues with some drainage problems. And while we tackle this sewer, we're going to be hopefully taking care of all those drainage issues as well. So here's, again, just another quick little spreadsheet that lays out the timing of each phase over the next 20 years. It also shows what is the expected nitrogen reduction will be and the compliance timeline for each phase, as it shows the anticipated cost for each watershed impacted. So it's 5-year periods for most of the projects, as you can see there. The Pleasant Bay watershed permit was updated in 2025, and we filed a NOI for the South Coast watersheds, which will be due in 2028. Other noteworthy accomplishments with the sewer over the last summer. The first 45 grinder pumps were delivered to the water pollution control facility. We began offering them out to customers that were ready for installs, as well as reimbursing folks who previously installed them. We informed the health department to send out the connection orders for our phase that was just recently completed, the 1D2A, a total of 94 properties on that. So I know the health department is working on getting those letters of connection out shortly, I'm guessing. It mentioned earlier was the property owner's guide to sewer installation. This is a fantastic piece of guide for everybody to go online, go onto the website. It's right there on the water and sewer page. It's very informative. It gives you a good layout of what to expect for the town hookup sewer. And then again, if you have any questions, if none of that's working, feel free to call the DPW, and Rob or myself will be happy to kind of walk you through it. Water. So water, we had a lot of big things going on. Most importantly, this one here, which is the training field water treatment plant. This treatment plant, we had issues with PFAS back in 2020, 21. So we had to shut the wells off. Well 8 remained off until just recently of June, like June of this year. But well 5, we were able to use seasonally for, with the temporary treatment of the PFAS removal. We built this plant and went online June 24th. We began pumping water into the system at a reduced rate, and just so that we could get all of the chemical feed systems up to speed and where we needed them. But as of July 6th, we were fully pumping 1,000 gallons per minute out of that well, both 5 and 8 going in there. So it removes iron and manganese, and it also removes the PFAS. Other noteworthy accomplishments regarding the water. In August last year, 635 letters went out to property owners who had registered irrigation but no second meter installed. Since then, 603 irrigation meters have been installed for a total of 1,460 irrigation accounts. So 60 drilled a well, 42 disconnected, and 39 are on an exemption report. This here is just a quick little, it's hard to see, but it kind of gives you a guideline of, this was the month of July, which is normally our highest pumping month. It just kind of gives you an idea of what each well field is doing. So you have the South Chatham well field, which has wells 1, 2, and 3. For the month of July, we pumped over 14 million. Well 4, well 5, which goes along with well 8, so the two of them together. But so we pumped over, so a grand total of 79,664 gallons of water over the month of July. So that's where water conservation comes in big. That's why we have our water restrictions for the irrigation systems out there, because while we have all 11 wells on, 1 well goes down, 2 wells go down, we have any kind of issues, then we're going to be struggling to meet that demand just in general. So we really push the water conservation for those reasons. And that's all I had. It was just kind of a quick one there. If you have any questions later on, feel free to ask.
Tom, thanks very much. We really appreciate that and the progress that you all have made. Mark, if we can bring the SRIC presentation back up. All right. Yeah, if you don't mind, Tom, that'd be great. Great, thank you. So, all right, I guess we're not going to cover these other two. There are 2 other slides. I guess we'll just go, we'll turn it back. We're going to turn it back to the moderator. We're not going to talk about sewer connectivity, which I know you're all disappointed. I mean, it's pretty exciting. But as you all know, once the sewer comes down your street, each individual homeowner is going to have to connect. And that's a process that takes a bit of time and costs a bit of money. And we've had someone who's recently been through it. So we wanted to kind of share some of those best practices. We also want you to know we're going to try to put a working group together to see if we can find some ways to reduce the cost of that so it's less costly for everybody in town. So we'll be doing some brainstorming over the next few weeks, and we'll be sharing that and working with DPW. So That'll save some time. Mr. Moderator, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank to all of your members for their efforts, as well as to the town staff who spoke. We appreciate it. In theory, questions were supposed to be written on cards and handed in. I have exactly one. I assume that is not the only question. If there are any, if you want to pass them down, or my friend Mr. Meehan can perhaps pick them up. But otherwise, I'll be happy to call on you for questions, and if they could be relatively brief, and if they can be directed to a specific member or speaker, that would also be helpful. But I have one that was handed to me, which is, I think, for both Mr. Barr and Ms. Goldsmith, although it's directed to the town manager. This questioner would like to know if the town manager could tell us what residents are supposed to do after sewer construction has occurred and left considerable damage or disruption to yards, landscaping, and so forth. Apparently, this person believes it's been happening throughout the town, and there have been assurances, apparently, the grass would be replanted and so forth. But they wondered what the town might be able to do to assist. Mr. Barr.
Yeah, so if it was a most recent project that might have just been wrapping up, the contractor is responsible. He has a year in his contract to come back and do any repairs. So if there's anything that happened in your yard or anything like that, call the DPW, let us know of the situation. We'll come out, assess it, take some photographs, and we'll get in touch with whoever that contractor was and have them come back out to address any issues. They do a video ahead of time, like a pre-video construction, to make sure that everything that was there, and then they try to put everything back to the best they can. But if there is anything, feel free to call DPW. We'll come out, we'll assess it, and then we'll get in touch with the contractor.
Thank you, Tom. Tom is sort of like me in that he doesn't mention things like QR codes, but he does have a phone number, which is 945-5150. I think there was a question somewhere. Yes, if you'd come down and take the mic, please. Yep. Even though you're not a Summer resident, and this is a meeting for Summer residents, you can certainly ask a question.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Carol McClellan, and I'm a year-round resident. And I just had some questions regarding the RTE report that you folks put forward. I certainly think that there'll be more than the 900 applying. And so, I mean, that the assessment at the end of your presentation, I think there'll be a lot more applicants. And the other thing is the RTE is a tool that a lot of municipalities use to ease the financial burden for locals in a given community. And this is done not just in Massachusetts, but all over the country. And many of you folks here actually get RTEs in your local community.
Carolyn, excuse me, was there a question mark?
Yes, the question is how can you justify denying local residents that opportunity when many of you get that opportunity in another community?
I don't know whether anyone care to respond to Ms. McLennan. Mr.
Yeah,
Sullivan.
I'd be glad to respond. Karen, appreciate the question, because there are a number of folks who have permanent residency in Florida and other places that receive a homestead exemption, as do residents in more than 35 other states. And that's why the SRIC has always said and continues to say that we want to help the folks in Chatham who are in need. We continue to disagree with the tool. That's the issue. It's not giving folks help. The RT it's just a blunt instrument. It doesn't help those in need. It redistributes the tax liability, and it hurts a number of full-time residents who are also in financial need. So we'd like to find a better answer. And the working group, the Finance Committee Working Group, has done a wonderful job, and I hope folks take a chance to read that.
So the RTE in other states is a blunt instrument also?
No, and this is probably not the time to debate that, but they're very different. Those are typically statewide. We're kind of comparing apples and oranges here, but we can share the details at another point. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to ask you to take the mic because while I'm sure I can hear you, Channel 18, it's not Channel 18, Chatham TV wants to hear you as well.
I'm Peter Metz. I live on Indian Hill Road North, which is just 2 blocks away over here. This makes this meeting very convenient for me. And I've been a 30-year resident, a non-resident taxpayer, owner. I just have tremendous admiration for the town and especially for the administration and for the SRAC. I think it's a wonderful institution. Thank you all for doing the work you're doing. 2 questions. One is on the short-term rental situation. I failed to understand what the problem was that you think there needs to be solved. I saw a lot of facts, but didn't come away with an understanding. My second question is about the RTE, which I'm generally in favor of, as is the SRAC, in terms of finding some sort of way to provide relief to residents, residential owners. They're the backbone of the town. I think that's entirely justified. If this is a blunt instrument, then we better be quick. In a spirit of justice, we better get very quick about finding a less blunt instrument. And so what I want to ask is, how about we run an experiment? Let's run it for 2 years, whatever's on the table, see what the results are, get your data that way. That'll flush out all the people who think they're eligible and all the rest, since you don't have enough applications. So what about running an experiment? That's my question. So 2 questions.
Well, if we could, we'll take, Mr. Manischai, do the first part on the short-term rental issue, and then maybe Mr. Garvey can respond on the RTE.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. Good question. So a couple of things that I would say. One, and I think Jeff alluded to it in his talk, one of the things short-term rentals do is decrease the capacity of the town to support people who have families who want to come in here and rent on a year-round basis. And I think there's great concern in the town about how small that population is and how difficult it is for people with children to come here and live and work here and so on. So I fully understand that. The fact that I raised in my talk was also the issue, and I'm a 30-year non-resident here as well. We've seen that community change dramatically in that 30-year period in many, many different ways. And we think that there's less community in local communities in the town, and it's differential. It doesn't affect every community equally, but it affects some communities more than others and so on. And we think it should be looked at, and it needs to be monitored so that we know what effects it actually is having. Is it helping the economy of Chatham, or is it harming the economy of Chatham, et cetera, and I could go on, and I don't want to waste too much time here. So my answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Tom?
Yeah, I think part of the concern, we look at the construct of the state law, and it results in a benefit across the board to owners without any regard to financial need and or comfort. So we think that a better answer would be more of a means-tested solution. The issue, quite honestly, is the state doesn't have a means-tested version of the RTE, except that it has been adopted in a handful of communities and is in legislation. It's in the legislative process for about another 10 to 12 communities to develop a means-tested residential exemption. However, that only applies to residents over 65. So we don't have an answer that plugs that gap. The other concern, honestly, if this is adopted, it will be very difficult, although it has to be revoted on annually. It will be very difficult to put that horse back in the barn.
And if I can just add one more thing. The RTE has been in Massachusetts. It was approved in 1979, so it's been around for a while. It's used in 20-some-odd places. There's not one piece of data that says that it's effective in helping folks get into a home nor stay in their home. So there's no data that says that it actually helps achieve that goal, if that is what the town's goal is.
Is there data that shows it isn't?
Nope, there's no data that proves it works either way.
Well, that's why you run an experiment and find out.
That the select board will,
If you want to do the right thing, sometimes you have to take a little bit of a chance, but make sure it's revocable.
got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Metz. Lady in the rear, yes, ma'am, if you'd come to the microphone, please.
Hi there, I'm Cindy Fitz. In coming up on 2 years, I will have been a 50-year person in Chatham, which, if you're looking at how young I look, that means I lived here full-time. I went to Chatham High School, and 75% of my class left Chatham. Short-term rentals question. So we have a family home. We had a lot of people. I have 4 children. We came here every summer with them growing up because we lived overseas. We lived a lot of different places. So Chatham is what our family considers home, even though we're only here in the summertime. And we had an opportunity to be able to procure the home across the street from us that only had 2 people living in it, and they were summer people. And we're trying to preserve our family home for our own children to be able to have that for them, for their future, so that they can spend their summers here with their families. There's a lot of people like that in this town that are summer people. But in order to bridge that gap between where we are right now and my children having our grandchildren, we are turning that into a short-term rental. We've got very good eyes on it. We're being very responsible, no less than 4 days. There are other organizations that do the 1 and 2 days. So my question is for you, what is the difference between a house occupied by 2 people, and it's now occupied by 2 people, and then another house that's occupied by 8 to 10 people, that was occupied by 8 to 10 people, except for that those 8 to 10 people that come in every week are all going into town, they're all spending money, they're injecting a lot of money into the economy. So what's the difference?
Ron?
So, very good question again. Congrats to you on doing a short-term rental with your home. And you're exactly the kind of person that we wished were doing short-term rentals here, basically. And you don't do a one-day rental. You I'm sure, keep your house up. All these things. You're doing all the right things. Not everybody does that, so it needs to be looked at.
Right. So how do you govern that, though?
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to figure out in an honest way, basically.
Okay.
That's why we think we need a bylaw. We think the town needs to look into some of these topics that I went through and need to figure it out, basically. And the issue of, does it contribute to the economy? We wish we had data to be able to answer that. We don't know whether short-term rentals harm the economy or improve the economy of Chatham. And we have to work on the data and actually get some data.
I think it improves the economy. There's a lot of I'm on Cedar Street, so, there's a lot on the street. There's a lot of summer people on the street. And a lot of people are doing this to be able to preserve their family homes.
And they're to be commended for doing that. They should preserve their family home, and they should be able to pass it down to their descendants as well, of course, of course.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Lady in the front, you had asked, yes.
Raise this up. I'm Noreen Powell, and I kind of grew up on Cape Cod since I was 9 years old, and we've been in Chatham about 14 years as part-time residents. We are reviewing whether we move here full-time, but I just want to say that I'm kind of saddened by what's going on right now with this RTE. I'm in support of helping those in need in this town. I think most of us summer residents are. I know that many of us, like us, volunteer our time, our talents, our money to try to support the food bank, support the churches, et cetera. We're all in for that. I just think this tax needs to be better managed. I don't think the way that it's coming out, it does feel like a kick in the gut to the summer residents. It feels very divisive. There's got to be means testing. I'm all for helping people that need it in this town. We volunteer our time. When COVID hit, the town couldn't get JN1 visas. Many of the summer residents volunteered to work in the stores to help our business. Our business is the town we love, the people we love. So this to me feels very hurtful and divisive. I've been quite upset about it. I am not against voting it in. I'm against there not being means testing. Why the money can't go into a pool, people apply for it, approve the need, the town approves the funds. But for me to pay the real estate tax of someone who's got a home that's $10 million on the water, and my house is an ounce of that, makes no sense.
The hand in the middle of this row, and then you, sir. Yes. No, you.
Suzanne Miska. I hail from a state that doesn't have a tax exemption for permanent residents, and that's the state of Connecticut. So that needs to be said. Additionally, you know, with all respect, Mr. Moderator, I don't think a lot of these people came with questions specifically, but they came because they want the select board to hear their frustration with what has taken place. I actually found that this meeting, I don't know what happened here. I've been here for the last 16 years, and we used to have a financial report, a fiscal financial report on the screen that showed us how lucky we were to live in Chatham and how the tax dollars were not going to rise and all of those things, but we didn't get that this time. We don't know what the taxes are going to be. I think I saw a brief thing of $4.67. I guess that's since I don't qualify, that's my tax rate. But I do think you need to open this up so that people can say to the first select board, A, this was poorly done. I don't appreciate being called that I'm a millionaire, that I have all this money, because if I do, somebody needs to tell me where it's located, because I didn't bring it with me. You know, 20%, this whole let's just see how it goes, is unacceptable. The cost of this program, the amount of people who will now have to implement this program. 950, I don't think, if that's who's gotten it, I'd love to know out of that 950 how many are means required. I'd love to know how many of the select board are going to take an exemption with this. So honestly, sir, we could sit here and we could make it like a Chamber of Commerce meeting, but these people didn't come because they're super excited that they're going to pay more in taxes to live in Chatham. We love Chatham. Sure, if I turned around and I asked everybody to raise their hand how many people love being here, we all do. And we want what's best for the town, just like the permanent residents do. And we share the frustrations that they have. And if there are people in this town who need help, by all means, town manager should come up with a plan and let's help those people. But just after we had a summer residents meeting last year, a week later, they sat there and said, we were millionaires, and oh, let's come up with an RTE, when they stood here at the podium and didn't mention that was even in the back burner or back pocket of anybody. So it's really hard to appreciate coming to a summer residents meeting to not get any information other than how government works, which was not very helpful, and not having anyone from the select board take the podium and tell us why. Why was this decided now? What was the cause?
Thank you. I told this gentleman I would get him next, and I will, but certainly if anyone from the select board would like to respond after this gentleman, you're more than welcome to. Sir.
Thank you all. My name is Bob Bogardus. I'm a third-generation Chatham resident. In 1920, my grandfather built the original house on Forest Beach up on the bluff. My wife and I own a property in South Chatham. I was a former elected official. I'll say the thing, I live in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We have a secondary home in South Chatham. In Portsmouth, New Hampshire, they give $750 credit to a veteran, which I'm a veteran. They don't do that in Chatham, and that's okay, but I understand that. But that's the thinking of the leadership in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I will add the following. I feel very strongly, I used to be an elected official, I feel very strongly that an individual, he or she, that has lived in a home in Chatham for a period of time, let's say 15 years, and has paid their taxes on time and legitimately, and then lost their significant other, their husband or their wife, they should be granted an opportunity to retain the family residence that they lived in for 15 years, 20 years, pick a number, and give them an opportunity to live and complete their life on earth in the house that means obviously a lot. And I mean, I have a lot of history here in Chatham, and I just feel very strongly about that. And if I was on the board, I'd strongly recommend that opportunity for a widow or widower to retain their property.
Mr.
Two observations. Under Massachusetts general law, and mostly unfortunately, Massachusetts towns are creatures of the state legislature. We have to follow their rules. There are certain exemptions for veterans, for elderly, depending on income. So there's also a tax deferral program. Secondly, I would simply observe something that you already know. While we are delighted to have you here down from Portsmouth, Chatham's last export to Portsmouth was Marcellus Eldridge. Made a lot of money as a brewer there and ended up building a library for us, so separate issue. Ms. Golds? I understand.
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moderator, if
Yes, sir.
I'm over here. If I,
Mr. Salden.
I'm sorry, if I may. Back to the comment that was made about the content of the presentation. We have asked for certain things to be cut and to be presented. So a detailed financial presentation was not what we had thought what we wanted to bring forward to you all at this meeting. That information is available in many other venues. If that is the type of thing that you would like to hear at future meetings, please let us know, and we can ask the town manager to bring that back. But the agenda was at our request. So if there's a concern, please let us know.
Yes, sir. The gentleman in the, you, sir. Blue shirt, I should have said.
Good evening. My name is Paul Angelico. I'm a 30-plus year non-resident taxpayer. I've paid my taxes on time every one of those 30-plus years. I only use the services 6 months of the year. So I'm carrying the rest of the year and paying for it. So I think the RTE is not the right means. And my question is this: where are the other options for us to consider on helping people out that really need it? We should know what those options are before a vote is taken on the RTE. Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
No one has an answer to that? Or comment?
Well, anyone is more than welcome to respond if there are any responses. I mean, I think the committee, the position of the committee has been made fairly clear. I don't know if there's anyone in the room who would like to respond. And Mr. Young?
I'll just
okay,
mention.
Mr. Garvey and then Mr. Young of the Finance Committee.
Okay.
Mr. Garvey.
Well, I may be taking Andy's
Would you like
thunder, but I think the working committee has identified a number of potential solutions for consideration by the select board. They're not going to be a overnight answer, but there are a number of ideas that have come forward from that working group.
I'm going to ask, if I could, ma'am, Andy Young of our Finance Committee. Andy, like myself, is a retired, recovering member of the Select Board. It's been a long time for both of us. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Is this on? Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. This afternoon, the Finance Committee approved a fairly extensive memo to the Select Board setting forth all of the many options that the town already has and many options that we think the town should consider as an alternative to the RTE. That memo should be available tomorrow morning on the Finance Committee website, at the town website. It is also likely to show up spontaneously in some people's email. You're welcome to read it. Our chairperson, Stephen Daniel, myself, other members of the Finance Committee would be happy to answer questions about it, talk about it. Frankly, we believe that the RT is not a good idea, and we're presenting these alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Yes, thanks. The lady, and then back to any of the members of the Board of Select.
My name is Marianne Foey, and I live on Shore Road, and I'd like to change the topic of conversation considerably. I would like to know what the town is going to do about the horrific traffic situation surrounding the Chatham Fish Pier. Shore Road in particular is a nightmare in the summer. It's a very serious problem. People are going to be hurt. I have called the police department twice in the last 2 weeks, telling them to come out and try to deal with it. There are people parking on both sides of the street. There are children walking unaccompanied. There are no sidewalks. It is a very dangerous situation, and I'm honestly surprised that nobody has been hit yet this summer. So I'd really love to hear what the town plans to do about it. We've had people parking on our lawn until 8 o'clock at night. Those are not people who are down looking at seals. I suspect they're people out perhaps on charter boats. They're just everywhere, and it's a really bad problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll get the Shore Road Fish Pier parking later. Mr. Dykens, did you want to speak?
Just a couple of comments. I do miss Hugh Moulton's annual state of the town. He did a wonderful financial summary for years, and I do miss him. And we should probably bring it back. I think that's a request. I'm going to talk about parking for a second. Parking is in 2 months of the year, arguably 4 months of the year, a real problem. Shore Road's a real problem. Fish Pier is a real problem. I have been a staunch advocate for a shuttle bus in the town of Chatham that would run along the loop, if you will, including the Fish Pier, and you don't even have to go all the way downtown. You can go parking lots, and I am a huge advocate for a shuttle bus. And at some point, we're going to get it baked into the tax rate, and we're going to have a shuttle bus in this town because it is desperately needed. In the Fish Pier, we need a retaining wall and parking spots, and then that's it. It's very dangerous. I've been concerned about Shore Road for a long, long time. God forbid we'd even talk about sidewalks in this town. Sidewalks on Shore Road or Stage Harbor Road, or are you kidding me? God forbid we'd ever talk about sidewalks along the whole loop. So you can go down Stage Harbor Road, up Bridge Street, go to the lights, and then down to the Fish Pier safely. On the RTE, there's no means-tested silver bullet for a residential tax exemption in the state that I've found, and there are none that I believe that I understood in the Finance Committee's report. I'm just telling you. There are folks that have filed home rule petitions for a means-tested RTE that primarily deals with the elderly. So those are the primary examples, guys. So it's not it's just, and that will not happen. A home rule petition, if we came up with a better mousetrap, a home rule petition takes years. We've had one for transfer tax in front of the legislature for 10 years. So there's no silver bullet. This is a regulation that we're allowed to adopt to try to help the local citizens, and that's a tool in our toolbox. It's not the answer. I know you think it's a cudgel, but it is a tool in our toolbox to help the local citizens.
Excuse me, that's not how we do things, either residentially or otherwise.
Right, well, thank you, Mr. Moderator. But I had When I campaigned this, I just got reelected last May, and when I campaigned, I was struck by how many short-term rentals there were in this town and how there's no available two-bedroom ranch houses anymore for our local citizens to buy. And I just left the campaign saying, how can I help our local citizens? And people reached out to me as well during the campaign. What can you do to help us? I don't have a means testing magic wand. I don't have it. The state doesn't have it, and towns don't have it. Now, we have a plethora of programs in this town that the Finance Committee report will outline that will help citizens. They're just not based on assessments, if you will. They are targeted for elderly, for the young, but we kind of don't have anything for the missing middle, the working families with kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dykens. Mr. Metters, did you want to say something? Corey Metters of our Select Board.
Good evening, Corey Metters of the Select Board. Didn't really want to plan to speak tonight, but I feel I'm more obligated. A couple things. If you notice the votes on the Select Board for the RTE, I'm going to stick on point of the RTE, have not been unanimous. We've been talking about this a long, long time, and it's not been a 5-0 vote. I have been reluctant to support it, and I continue to be reluctant to support it for a couple of reasons. Yes, it's divisive. Yes, the program is flawed. We've identified certain things with trust and means basis and whatever. But when you really start digging down into these things, I mean, I grew up in this town. I mean, my grandfather had a woodworking shop on this property when it was Airport Lumber years ago. So I have a lot of ties to this community. And I was fortunate enough to move back here. And a lot of that had to do with family help, obviously family property and everything. And, myself, some of my college and high school friends have, stayed in town. Some have moved away. But I'm in a situation where I will probably get the break. I applied for it. I think there's at least 3 votes on the board. So I think it's going to happen. So I transparently, I applied for it. But I've lost my parents. We have some family property. I'm going to get taxed higher. And it's just going to be another damn hurdle trying to hang on to the property for my kids because, we grew up in this town. We try to get generations to stay here, and we're just putting up one hurdle over another. And I look at it as a huge hurdle to maintain another piece of property. And if I decide to, move it on, it's not going to sell, for short-term housing or something. Someone's going to come and probably sadly bulldoze the damn thing down. It's an older Cape Cod property. But I think it's the RTE, while I respect the other people's opinion, I think this proposal is flawed, and I'm not committing to any votes, but I'm very unlikely to support it. And it's been going around. The RTE has been a conversation for years. This is not a new conversation. I think some of what has been thrusted into the conversation now is the Seasonal Communities Act, which allows us to go up to a higher percentage. I do believe the board has been wise at least discussing a lower percentage, but it can go higher. So everyone's been asking, and I got the feeling that you think the select board is unanimous on this. We're not, and I appreciate your input, and we'll see what happens with this.
Thank you, Corey. Another member of our Select Board, Mr. Nicastro, and then I will turn it back to the chair for closing remarks. Mr. Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dean Nicastro, member of the Select Board. I was the one no vote when this was on our agenda back in August. I was chairman of the board at the time. This did not happen in the middle of the night. I intentionally put it on in the summertime on August 19th when summer people were here. I was required to put it on under our rules because one of my colleagues who had campaigned in favor of it and was elected asked me to put it on the agenda. I voted no again back in January. I was one of the 2 votes. For me, each classification hearing is an annual event, and I look at the information that is brought before us. It's a public hearing. Any citizen and non-citizen can speak to it. And we hear a report from the Director of Assessing and the Board of Assessors. I'm liaison to the Board of Assessors. I have not made up my mind which way I'm going to vote this time. I have voted against it 12 times. I've written against it in the newspaper. But each hearing is a new event for me. We're required annually to do this. The gentleman who asked the question about an experiment, well, it is an experiment de facto. The Select Board has to take a vote every year on the classification of properties. And, you know, it may be suggested, as I think Tom said, and by the way, I appreciated Tom's presentation, as well as I want to commend the short-term rental. I wasn't aware of all the work that you guys are doing on that. I look forward to your report. I want to say something about the Finance Committee report. The Finance Committee doesn't run the town. It's the town manager and the Select Board. We set policy. I supported the Finance Committee article. I was one of the 2 votes when it went to town meeting, and I voted for it at town meeting. And I respect the work of the Finance Committee. I used to serve on the Finance Committee. I'm the liaison to the Finance Committee. I've read their draft report, which was approved today at a meeting of the Finance Committee. And there's a lot of interesting material in there. But stepping back, I would ask you to look at it and ask yourself whether they really make the case against the RTE or make the case for delay. That's up to you when you read it. There's one item that is not in that report, and I was pretty shocked that it wasn't in there. We recently set up a taxation aid committee to provide support, financial support based on need under state law to 2 categories of people, both disabled and seniors. I have suggested on several occasions that the town file a home rule petition with the legislature, and I know it takes a while to get these passed, to extend the jurisdiction of that committee to include anybody in need, not just seniors, not just disabled, and to allow the town to be able to contribute to it by appropriation so that everybody has skin in the game. That's a solution I was surprised is not in the report. I guess that's as much as I want to say. My plan is to listen to everybody. I'll make my decision on September the 1st. No one should presume which way I'm going to vote in either direction. I suppose you can look at my record as having opposed it 12 times and draw an inference. But anything is possible. And I especially look forward to the recommendations of the committees, not just the Finance Committee, because I respect them, but their role is advisory. They have no role under the statute. Nobody has any role under the statute except the Select Board. And I especially look forward to the recommendation of the Board of Assessors. So I just really wanted to get those points out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dean, and to your colleagues as well, and to all of the town officials who are here. And with that, Ms. Potash.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hi, everybody. I've had the pleasure of your company pretty much every Friday and during the other meetings for short-term rentals, and I have full respect and admiration for all of you. I like you very much. Before I met any of you, I had already committed to supporting the residential tax exemption. So my allergies are a little tough tonight. I'd already committed it during the campaign, and that was just a couple of months ago. And I really don't think it would be showing any kind of integrity at all for me to go ahead and change my mind. I'm open-minded for next year, and I want to just clear one thing up. Regarding the means testing, I actually called Julian Cyr, our state senator. He was in the room while it was recently discussed. And I said, Julian, did anyone mention means testing? He said no, and he told me why. I'm going to read it. He said means testing was never discussed because it would mean that municipal employees would have to delve into people's personal finances, and they'd have to do it annually, and that's just simply not feasible. So it's not going to happen that we're going to have means testing probably in our lifetime. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, should we help people in need? Yes. This is about seasonal communities and about the fact that our seasonal community needs to tax for services that are well in excess of what year-rounders use. So that is tough. And certainly our property assessments are completely out of alignment with our region's median income. Essentially, people are priced out of their own neighborhoods. So this is what I heard during the campaign. There's a lot of people in our town that don't want to run around telling everybody that they're in favor of it. And if you ask them, and I absolutely asked them, some of you might have seen me at the transfer station, I'm not sure, but I talked to a lot of people. And when I asked them that, they look around a little bit before they'd answer and say, well, I'm really in favor of it, but I know it's kind of divisive, but I hope you do it. So I just want to let you know that they are reticent, but they're out there. There is a need, and this is just one tool in the toolbox. And I appreciate the gentleman with the red shirt that said, let's try it and see how it goes, because that's the way I'm looking at it. So I just wanted you to know that. Yes, my house qualifies. I think it's lower than the mean average anyway. My husband's against it. He's an accountant. He thinks it's, quote, stupid. So, we could even donate our savings perhaps to a needy cause. I don't know. But I just wanted to be frank and let you know where I was coming from. I believe that as a select board member, I represent the whole community, not just the voters, and I hope you understand that, why I'm making the decision I'm making. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Potash. Mr. Salter, Chair of the SRAC.
First of all, thank you, everyone, not just for coming out tonight, but for actively engaging and listening and sharing. One of the most important things I think that comes out tonight is that we should not let a tax policy change become divisive to our community. I think Chatham is a victim of its own success. I've heard people say, we love to be here. We're here all the time. When we're here, people are typically in a good mood. And so let's not let this get in the way. Let's continue to talk. We'll be civil. We'll share our thoughts. The Select Board is open to listening. Please look for the opportunity to share with them your thoughts and findings. And if you have another idea, please get that to them. Again, it's the Select Board's decision. It really comes down to them on the RTE. We'll continue to work the other items that you've heard about. There's a long list of issues where we think we can make a difference. And again, we have a couple of openings, and if you're interested in getting involved, please go ahead and let us know. And with that, I think I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
That was quick.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second. Jamie?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Jeff Spalter, aye. Thank you all so much for coming, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.